We're just a couple of business anchors. Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast. This jingle is slightly too long. This jingle is slightly too long.
With a recession looming, marketing budgets are being cut and marketers have even more pressure to deliver results with less resource, Lloyd. So how on earth can they do it?
Well, that sounds like it's all doom and gloom, but don't worry, it's not. We've got some tips for you.
Yeah, I do feel like we obviously speak to a lot of marketers and it feels like budgets are being cut and expectations are even higher than normal. Like, I don't know how people expect to get as good results whilst cutting budgets and not changing anything. But hopefully this episode will help you know what you should do.
Well, that's one of the things to consider, I guess. If you are being asked by your superiors in a business or by your clients, if you're providing marketing services or whatever for better results with less resource, I think one of the things you need to do is have that open and honest conversation of like, we will do our best to achieve these goals, but if you're giving us 50% less resources and expecting the same results, obviously that's going to be more challenging.
I also feel like a decent line manager or boss or whoever you go to speak to, I feel like they will respect that. Yeah. They will respect you pushing back and saying, this isn't achievable. Yeah. Based on our understanding of what we've been doing and what works and that kind of thing, it's not achievable. So definitely push back because you don't want to end up like...
I think you can still be positive and say, we will do our absolute best to get as close to this as possible. But I suppose with if people are setting unrealistic expectations with big cuts in marketing budget, stay positive and say, we're going to try and find ways to really do our best with what we've got. But it's just unrealistic to expect that. And I think speaking out early, so say you're going into 2023 and maybe you head up the marketing department of the business you're working in, and one of the directors, whoever it is, has said, okay, just so you know, everyone, obviously tough times, marketing budget's being cut by 30% this year.
Get double the results.
I think, no, but even if they're not saying get better results, I think having that conversation early and just saying, okay, we've got these goals, obviously long-term goals for the business and things we're aiming towards. I just want to check that those aren't as important anymore, or we're not expected to reach those goals, because if we're cutting marketing budget, that's not going to allow us to do that. And that might make them think or go to their superiors, actually, we've said we need to grow by 30% as a business by 2024. Although this looks good in the short term, cutting marketing budget to save costs, it's going to mean we're not going to achieve those goals. And then they can be saying, is that really what we want to do? And maybe they'll go, we've just got to have lower expectations because that's where we are as a business. But it might make them think twice and say, actually, you're right. Yeah, let's not cut them as much as we've said.
I think that's a really good first step for listeners. If you're in this situation where your budgets are being cut, have that difficult conversation early on. And actually, you might actually think, oh, okay, budgets are cut, but they're expecting us to achieve this, and that seems reasonable. So you may not need to have the difficult conversation, but I think most people probably will. So I think that's a really good first step.
And try and center those conversations over the things that are important to whoever's cutting that budget, or to your client or to the business. So like I said, it might be the business, the most important thing, right? We're trying to build this business to sell it, or we're trying to grow this business to make more profit. And if you're centering that question around, we're cutting marketing, that's going to make it less likely we'll achieve the goal of that growth, or that's going to make it less likely that company that's looking to acquire us is going to be interested in buying this business, or whatever that goal might be.
I really think that's a powerful tip that I haven't thought about before. The way you frame the way you speak to whoever's cutting the budget and tie what you're saying back to what they're trying to achieve will be really powerful, because then you're not just saying stuff. You're not just saying, I don't reckon we can do this. You're saying, just to check, you mentioned that Q4 goals are to achieve X amount of impressions, X amount of traffic and views to the website. We're currently spending 10 grand a month, but you want to cut that to 2 grand. So I just want to be sure, how are we supposed to achieve those same, and if you're framing it back to what they've said, that then they might have a switch in their mind, think, actually, this doesn't, we either need to change our goals or change what we're doing.
And this is relevant to almost any conversation with either like decision makers within the business that you're working for, or your managers or directors within the business, whoever you're reporting to, anyone can just moan about, oh, what, our budget's being cut. Are you sure? Because that's going to make it harder. And I think that kind of thing of, well, why is our budget being cut? That's going to make it really hard for us. The person making the decision is going to be kind of thinking, well, yeah, it's hard for everyone in the business. Like, why are you just moaning?
You moaning doesn't...
But for any kind of decision, even if it's about something else, I think this is a really good tip about centering the conversation around what you're being asked to achieve, what's important to the person making those decisions.
Yeah. This reminds me of that. It's that classic thing of if they're the way people deal with stressful situations, and if there's a fire in the room, people react in different ways. Some people point at the fire and go, there's a fire. There's a fire. Other people freeze and don't know what to do. And then the people that are actually good think, there's a fire. What can I proactively do to help with this situation? There's a fire extinguisher there. I'm going to go and get it and put it out. So you need to position yourself as the person who's not just moaning and complaining about stuff, because that's so easy to do. Actually think of solutions in that conversation you're having rather than just complaining. That really makes you stand out as an employee as well. If you're coming to whoever and saying, I've seen that this is a bit of an issue, but I think we should do X, Y, Z to improve it. That's like... You are bloody good. Imagine
you're the marketing manager and the marketing director has said to you, we're cutting these budgets. And you go back to the marketing director and you say to her, oh, this is going to have a negative effect on our business goals. That marketing director goes to the CEO and says, oh, Stephen has pointed out this. Then like she's talking about you to the CEO, saying that, showing that you're really keen on making sure that you can achieve the business goals that's really important to the CEO. Yeah. So anyway, we'll move on from that point, but it's so simple. Yeah. Well, say it's simple. It's just a really important thing that you might not think of around when budgets are being cut.
So so that's a really good first step, having those conversations that need to be had. I also think tied in with that is managing expectations as well and discussing what's actually possible. So once you've had those conversations, I think something that could happen is there could be quite a negative vibe in your marketing team, or if it's just you in marketing, or whoever you're working with within the marketing team. I think saying budgets are being cut, it's all doom and gloom. I really think no matter your position in the marketing team, how senior or not senior you are, you should be the person that tries to sort of rally the team and be positive. Because I know this sounds a bit fluffy, but it's really impactful and it's really noticeable when there's someone in the team in those kind of shitty situations that's like, you know what, it's been cut, but let's look at ways we can do this and improve things and try and be a bit positive. Yeah. I think that's a really important point.
Yeah. Another thing that I think is really important is looking at the opportunities that this gives you. And I'm not just doing that thing. Sometimes when shit happens, people go, look at the opportunity. You're thinking there isn't any. So that's really not helpful. But if budgets are being cut in the business, that usually means that there's less income coming into the business, or it looks like there will be less income. That means less customers, less work to do, basically, for almost any business. If you're working, if it's manufacturing you're in, sales are down, so we're cutting budgets. That means that the company's going to produce less of that product. There's going to be more resources available. So also look at what you can do with those resources. So we do this in our business. We look at capacity, and if there's less client work than normal in a particular month, we'll try and look at the time that's available. So even if, you haven't got, our marketing budget was 10,000, now you've got 2,000. Could it be, okay, you've got £2,000, but you've got an extra 20 days of various team members' work that can go into your marketing. So I would say it's another conversation you can have, or if you're the decision maker, think about, okay, we've got less money, but actually these people in the work for the business have more time. We can finally shoot that video with the operations team that always say, we don't have enough time for that because they're not at capacity anymore because there's less business. And really looking at those resources and thinking, what can I do with the resources we now have that are extra, that might not be financial, but give us real opportunity to improve our marketing.
And we've actually done a whole episode on capacity planning where Lloyd spoke a lot about the process he set out and we use in the company. Definitely go and listen to that.
There's too many businesses that just have quiet weeks, quiet months, quiet quarters, and people are just like, oh, it's good. It's quite quiet, isn't it? Oh, yeah, I don't really know what to do. It's like, no, and it's for everyone's benefit. Do extra marketing stuff that's going to get more income for the business. Then hopefully, if you work for a decent business in the future, everyone can earn more. Employee pay rises, profits for the business, growth, rather than just, oh god, yeah, it's a bit quieter than
I was going to say, literally something that's happened in our business recently that I feel like we've improved is when things do change. So, for example, client projects move to a later month and resources freed up, rather than just thinking we made a plan for the start of the month, let's look at review that plan at the end of the month to see how it went. We're having conversations every week to think about, that project's changed or moved back. We've now got these people's time in the company. Let's focus on them doing some good things in other areas of the company. So, and something that drives this is our weekly meetings that we have every week that we've spoken about in another podcast episode about the entrepreneur's operating system that you should definitely listen to as well. It's been game changing.
Yeah.
Something else that's really important, another piece of advice, is if your budgets are cut, definitely spend time auditing how you're currently investing time and your resource. Because I guarantee there's things you're doing that aren't giving you a decent return on investment that you could cut or that you could swap for doing something else. So think about this. When was the last time you looked at your own marketing and thought, right, we actually advertise in this publication and we pay 400 quid a month for it. Can we look, like, what is that achieving? How are we measuring success? And actually look at all the different things. Or we exhibit at an event every year that costs 10 grand to create this stand and stuff. What was the return last year? And could we spend that 10 grand in a better way?
I made a note of this around data-driven decision making. So a lot of businesses like, we exhibit these events every year, and it takes a strong person and someone to be bold and say, well, I've actually looked at this and I think that gets us less of a return than this other activity we do. And using data is always going to be the best way to make those decisions. So having a look at that, what activities get us the best return, what are underperforming, and make your decisions on that, rather than that kind of, we always do this though, we're going to have to cut that new thing.
Yeah.
There might be a new thing you're doing that's getting you better results than ever before, or showing potential of that from the data that you're getting. And actually you should carry on that and cut something else that isn't performing. So using data to make those data-driven decisions.
We literally use this strategy that Lloyd's speaking about yesterday in our business and are going to make some really positive changes. So yesterday we had a meeting and we looked at our data in our sales and CRM system. We use HubSpot, where we log all the different projects and opportunities that we get. We looked at what are the most lucrative opportunities or projects that we've converted this year, and analyze, like, where did they come from? That one there, where did that come from? And then we had a bit of a discussion like, that one came from this, that one came from that. And we realized that there's a few key, inverted commas, marketing platforms or channels that we're using that are bringing in all of the most lucrative opportunities. So we were like, we're not actually putting as much effort as we should be in those three areas. We know that for our growth next year, we want more of those. So let's invest time and energy and schedule a strategy day to look at how can we better optimize those marketing channels. So as a piece of advice, definitely audit what you're currently doing and look at where your best opportunities are coming from and do more of that, or focus more on those platforms.
It may be that 50% of the budget is cut, but you actually only cut 20% of the results if you do this in the right way, which obviously is still less. But, if you can be achieving that from 50% budget cut, you're winning. So, yeah, really important to get the most out of whatever resources you do have left.
Yeah. Another really important thing, another piece of advice, is to do more testing. So we've spoken about this a lot in terms of testing different marketing strategies and approaches. And I always say that you should be focusing at least 20% of your marketing resource on trying and testing something completely new, a new platform, a new strategy, a new tactic. Like we've mentioned before, this podcast was a test in February 2020 that has now turned into one of our biggest revenue generators. Right now, TikTok for us is a test that's looking like it's going more and more towards a place where it's going to be one of our biggest revenue generators. We've already started generating leads that are mentioning that they've seen us on TikTok. So really think about, what are you doing that's trying and testing something new? Because your budget may be cut 75%, right?
What?
It may be cut 75%.
No one told me.
Well, yours isn't, but the listeners might be. If it's cut 75% and you've only got that 25% left, you could use some of that 25% to try a different platform like podcasting or creating posts on LinkedIn or TikTok or starting an email newsletter or PPC ads, and realize that, wow, we put this small amount of effort in and got some results. Let's now scale that up and stop doing all these other things over here that we're doing, the exhibiting at events, the advertising on TV, the print or whatever, and focus more on that. So definitely start testing more.
Also, something more psychological for you in this case. So it's always going to be tough for people in business when budgets are cut. That's going to be a challenge. You know, it's never budgets are cut. Okay, cool.
Great.
Yeah. But psychologically, I guess thinking it won't always be like this is quite helpful. So, okay, we've got a period of time where our circumstances have changed, so we need to be doing different things. But if you actually react to that in the right way and get through that period of challenging times, the businesses that actually do that and get through it are usually far stronger once you get into good times. So imagine if you the things that you're going to learn and improve, like I said, budget's cut by 50% and your results are cut by 20. You found some kind of efficiencies or better performance there that when in a couple of years' time they go, oh, we can get back to our old budget.
Yeah.
Suddenly you're getting much better results than you did before this challenging time.
Yeah.
So I guess just think it won't always be like this, and this work that we're doing to improve things now can really pay off in the future.
I do feel like this, like trying to think of a positive of budgets being cut, sometimes, and I found this, it can be a bit of a kick up the arse to actually figure out better ways of doing things. Like even recently when we've taken on some really exciting new projects and we're very busy, and my side of the business that I manage, the marketing side, we're having to use some of that resource to deliver projects because we've got really busy and we've got less marketing resource. I've really started to really analyze, like, what are we spending all of our time on, and where can I stop and cut things that aren't necessarily bringing a good return on investment in, and how can we better use our time? So I do feel like this kind of thing is actually, I think it could be a positive, because you're actually, people get comfortable in the way that they do things. You've got another big budget this year for marketing. Go on. Do your exhibiting, do your TV.
If you're hitting goals and marketing's going well, no one's questioning you. It's very easy for anyone to get a bit complacent because, any of us want a nice life. So if you think, okay, well, what I'm doing's working, you might not be looking for improvements. So again, it's one of those, there's opportunity here, but there is potentially a bit of a kick up the arse to be like, okay, I need to make improvements here. Let's look at what we can do. And that can be quite exciting. Like those challenges can be exciting sometimes. Right, I've got to learn some new stuff. I've got to then communicate this to the team that we've got. It can be quite a good, I was going to say fun. You might not think it's fun, but quite a fulfilling project to work on. But by the time you get to the end and go, oh, wow, that's right. I learned some new stuff, communicated with the team, implemented it, and we're getting these results now. By that point, it's like, okay, this has been really good. But initially, it's going to feel negative.
Also, one final thing for me, after your budgets are cut and you have to figure out better and new ways of doing things, once the data starts to actually show that things are working, you have all the rights to go to your boss or the CMO or the CEO and say, look what we're doing, this is working, you should invest more in this. And don't just accept budgets are cut forever, prove that something works, then go back to your CMO or head of marketing and say, this is working, let's spend more.
Marketing's the one thing that when times are hard financially in a business, you still have the ability to convince decision makers to spend more. Because if you've got data and you're proving, well, if we spend more, we're getting more money in, that's going to improve the situation. So actually it could be sensible to increase budgets. So
especially when working with Knowlton as well.
Yes, increase budgets, talk to us. Give us a call.
But yeah, I'm hoping this is a relevant episode because right now budgets are being cut and we've had to think.
You're hoping budgets are being cut?
No, sorry. I'm hoping this is a good episode because right now, a relevant episode because right now budgets are being cut. So there's lots of people listening to this that have probably had their budgets cut and we've had to think about this as well. So hopefully these tips are useful for you anchors.
Yeah, I hope so too. I've actually said some stuff that adds value in this episode.
You have.
There's been a couple recently where I feel I haven't added much value.
Yeah. If you think that we should be getting a new co-host with me on the podcast, guys, just drop us a message. And if you got any suggestions or anything, if you think Lloyd's had his sort of day, then
Lloyd's had his day. Let's leave that. Lloyd's had his day.
And I guess we'll see
you in your ears
next
week. Dan will anyway.